Hey, it's Heather, and welcome to another adventure in gardening. So I grew up on the beach. We live very close to the ocean, and my mother would take us to the beach the entire summer. And when you're a kid and you see this beautiful workable sand, you immediately become a construction worker. And you don't build your castle or your mansion on the dry sand. You build it on that wet sand, the sand that the tide left. And I remember many times my brother and I, we would just take and we'd start digging that hole and putting the walls around this like beautiful pond and then building this elaborate sand castle, you know, with the peaks, and everything would be just perfect. And before you know it, every kid on the beach is part of the construction team. And we're all like, Penny, say hi. And all of us are just like being super creative and building this work of art, you know, and using our imagination. And then before long, something starts to change and the tide starts to come back in, and it starts to get a little closer. So people are, you know, trying to divert the waves or the water by making a gully, and then the waves keep coming and they start crashing over, and we're trying to bail out, you know, the moat, and before long you got every kid's hands on deck and we're all trying to like save this castle. But you know, sometimes you can't fight nature, right? And before long, the waves come crashing and it was like flat. It was like we were never there and never made anything at all. And that is kind of what it's like for gardeners, okay? We tend to want to fight nature, okay, instead of working with nature. So today I want to talk about things that you can plant out. If you live in a climate where you experience winter, whether it's zone 7654, whatever, okay? If you are at that kind of in-between stage where we're in between, we sort of feel like we're in between winter and summer still, even though it is springtime. We here, where I am in New England, we are experiencing temperatures that are anywhere between 35 at night to 75 during the day. So we are all over the place. And it's so easy to think, like right now this is so nice out today. I think we're in the 60s right now. It's so easy to think, oh yeah, it's going to be okay. We can plant our vegetable garden now. And yes, you can plant your vegetable garden now, but it is very dependent on what you're going to be planting, okay? Right now, with the temperatures fluctuating between those 30s and 70, okay, you want to stick just with your cold crops. And I'm going to walk you around in my garden and show you some cold crops that are outside that I actually have had planted. It's been a month now, all right? And during that month, we have experienced snowfall. We've experienced one night where the temperatures were freezing or below for more than 4 hours, okay? So cold crops are meant to do well in that kind of weirdo kind of springtime, all right? Now, some people will wait, and you know, they've had their vegetable plants, you know, they've gotten burnt before with their vegetable plants, and they want to wait until Memorial Weekend to plant everything, all right? Now, there are many things that you should wait until then for, but you know what? You're going to take, and the cold crops, they need to get established before that happens. So let's talk first about what we should be waiting on. All right, so what exactly are we talking about for hot crop? All right, so tomato plants. All right, it is too soon for tomato plants if you're in those temperatures that I just named. Now, when can you safely put your tomato plants out? Well, when your nighttime temperatures are pretty consistent in the 50s. Now, I'm a little bit of a gambler, okay? So I look at the weather and it's like, okay, well, we're in mostly the 50s and we're dipping a little bit into the upper 40s and it's really gonna be okay. I think it's going to be okay. But it is not time yet, all right? We wanna wait a little bit longer for our tomatoes and my little itty bitty pepper. See the itty bitty pepper there? All right, we want to wait on things like that, as well as eggplants. All right, we want to wait on the eggplants, and we definitely want to wait on sweet potatoes. Okay, now the sweet potatoes I will not be planting out until June. So this sweet potato plant, I am actually going to be taking more cuttings of this to make more sweet potato vines. So before we go out and look at some cold crops, so what are your cold crops? The things that you should be planting now, they are things like your lettuce and your cabbage and your kale, perennials. Okay, like I've got some perennials that I sowed myself this year that they could go out right now. Now, here's the key. Can they go out straight from this greenhouse outside? Can they go straight from your windowsill to outside? Can they go straight from a regular garden center outside? Not necessarily, even if they're cold crops. You kind of have to have that little bit of a middle step in between. And so what I will do, for two reasons. Number one, because of they're growing in kind of like a temperature controlled atmosphere. All right. And number two, it's the sunlight. So even your window will act as a sunscreen. Okay, the plastic in the greenhouse here acts as a sunscreen. So we want to acclimate them slowly to regular temperatures outside. I love a cloudy day to do that. And I like also to watch those temperatures. You know, if they've been growing in about 60 degrees, it's going to shock them a little bit if it dips down into the 30s. So I kind of just will put them out a little bit during the daytime and then bring them in. So I'm going to show you some that I have that are at that in-between stage that haven't gone into the ground yet, but they're just about ready to. And then we'll go look at the vegetable garden, and you can see how these cold crops have fared with freezing temperatures, with snow, and then really nice days like today. Okay, so this is where plants are in waiting. They came out of the greenhouse and now they're acclimating to the ups and downs of the temperature controlled by me. So if I see that the weather is going to get too cold, I will just bring them back in. So things like, let me get my shadow out of the way. Things like this arugula and this lettuce right here. This is flashy butter crunch. This is that purple perversion plantain. So this is like an herb. And I've got some petunias and some snapdragons that I'm acclimating. And these are the annual bachelor buttons. The ranunculus. The ranunculus I think I'm going to plant today because it's been a few days that I've had it out here. The Welsh onions, they're ready to go. The arugula and the lettuce just came out yesterday, so I'm going to give them. I'm just going to watch the temperatures, and I'll put them out soon. I've got some calibrachoa down here. The leeks over here. The leeks are probably ready right now, and those are those black poppies right there. So this is kind of like the waiting area here. It also gives me time to think about where they're going to go because I actually don't have a plan for everything. So let's go look at the vegetable garden now. So I mentioned, your cold crops that you want to, plant them and let their roots get established when it's the weather that they need the most, which is cooler weather. Things that do better in cooler weather. Also, I really think that they don't bolt as quickly when the weather turns really warm. Like the arugula and and broccoli and cauliflower. Okay, I think it takes and it makes them more robust, okay, and prepared for the warmer weather when the weather turns hot quickly. All right, so let's take a look around at the vegetable garden. Okay, so there is a lot of what looks like empty soil here in the vegetable garden. But you can see that there's some garlic. There's garlic planted in another area. The rhubarb I just transplanted. Okay, so this is all in real time. This is what your rhubarb will look like right now. And you'll note that there are some boards in the garden. Now the boards were over top of where I had the carrots germinating. So, oh yeah, okay. This is my sole purpose in life. If I'm outside, yep. All right, so I'm going to show you what the carrots look like right now, if Penny will let me. Look out, Pen Pen. Yep. Okay, so these wires are here so that the cats do not disturb the seedlings. And I've decided to leave the boards, Penny, I've decided to leave the boards in the garden just to keep the weeds down, and so I can plant other things behind the carrots. But those are the carrot seedlings. I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but there's a ton of carrot seedlings in here. So carrots can definitely be sowed right now. On this side over here are onions, lots and lots of onions. Now these onions were started in February and planted out weeks ago. Yeah, I don't even remember what day I planted them out. Penny? I feel like I'm constantly fighting the cat. Oh, here comes Priscilla too. Yay. Oh, yep, that is a garden. Hello? She's like, I don't care. I do what I want. Okay, I was going to show you that there are mustard seedlings. Look, there's a mustard seedling right there in the garden. And I like to leave the mustards for free plants. All right, so right here, I just planted these yesterday. Some lettuce here, okay. And I'll show you the lettuce that have been planted outside for a really long time. And they're not, you know, they're not that much more advanced than the one that I just planted yesterday. All right, this is Marvel of Four Seasons, and then there are some radishes that I planted out, and they've been out here a really long time. On the other side are tall telephone peas. All right, and they have, you know, been out here through the snow and through the cold weather. There's some kale that sowed itself. Here's more lettuce. Yep, this is Butter Crunch lettuce that I sowed on March the 24th. All right, and so it's probably been out here since, I guess, April 1st, and then there's more mustard right there. Here's a whole row of peas, and there are some beets in here, and if you look, these are the red onions right there. Right, so there's a whole bunch of red onions there. And right down in here are dill seedlings that sowed from last year. So that's what they look like, even though the weather has been all over the place and freezing. You know, I saw them a couple of weeks ago. They look great. Okay, so these are Bare Necessities kale. There is scarlet kale. And that is cabbage right there. So there's a whole bunch of cabbage. So all of these plants are just gorgeous. They're working on getting their roots established, and I will definitely have beautiful kale and cabbage and lettuce and onions coming along because I planted them early. So I planted them early because they're cold crops and because the ground was workable, because obviously we have had years where, you know, we've still had snow at this point, but we just don't this year. Every year is different. So once you've figured out what crops that you can plant early and knowing where you're at and how and when the ground is workable, go for it, okay? Instead of fighting nature, learn how to work with nature. And in doing so, you'll have a more productive vegetable garden earlier in the season and later in the season. So thumbs up if you've enjoyed spending time with me, and leave me a comment below. Let me know what's going on in your garden, what you've got planted, what's doing well, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe so that we can stay in touch and you don't miss out on the next adventure in gardening. See you soon.